Welcome to the On a Mission Mojo podcast, where I have the pleasure of interviewing impact driven founders, entrepreneurs, authors, and business experts who are actively working to create a positive difference in our world. I'm your host, Lori Young, a branding specialist, certified master marketer, and a passionate advocate for brands that possess heart, soul, and an unwavering commitment to drive change for humanity. It takes grit, a visionary mindset, and an abundance of mojo to navigate this journey. And the stories I share will undoubtedly ignite your passion. If you're seeking an infusion of inspiration, motivation, and valuable insights to amplify your impact, let's dive right in. Welcome to episode 11 of On a Mission Mojo podcast. I'm excited because we have a really different topic today. If you are a heart-centered business, mission-driven business that is on a mission to help create positive change for humanity, you may have thought about, should I start a nonprofit? And that is what we're going to be talking about today, like whether or not a nonprofit business model is right for you. And if it is, like, how do we go about setting that up? And I have with us Dr. Victoria Boyd. She is an author, trainer, consultant, and founder of the Philanthropreneur Foundation, a nonprofit that supports other nonprofits.
Yes.
Their mission is to build nonprofit capacity through education, awareness, and resources. Even their name reflects her philosophy, philanthropy, and entrepreneurship. So Welcome, Victoria, to the show. I'm so glad to have you, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation.
Thank you for inviting me on your show. Anytime I get to talk about anything in the nonprofit sector, I get really excited because That's my passion. I've been in that sector for over 40 years. And so, any way that I can help others first understand it, because it's sort of an animal that's misunderstood. Mm-hmm. But especially now with the Philanthropreneur Foundation, how we, really help those that are trying to start it or are already established create more effective, efficient, so that they can serve their mission and have impact in the world.
Awesome. So why don't you share a little bit about your story, kind of like how you came to being an expert in this field?
So we're going to go way back.
Okay, let's do it.
I taught dance for 28 years in a performing arts high school in the Midwest, back in Detroit. And teaching in the fine arts or in the arts, very often you have to do fundraising. School systems don't give you money for costumes and travel. Right. And I have taken dancers literally all over the world. We've been to Edinburgh, we've been to France, London.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and the U.S. performing. Mm-hmm. So I was always in fundraising mode. Mm-hmm. But being in the arts, also, I was heavily involved in the nonprofit sector through different arts organization, Michigan Dance Council. So I have formed, merged, and closed nonprofits.
Okay.
And been in leadership positions as executive director, president, interim executive director, so I've held a lot of leadership roles. Mm-hmm. And with my passion being education, I'm a trainer. That's where my passion is. I like to see individuals, people, and now organizations reach their full potential. Mm-hmm. So after my career in dance, which I loved, and then I became the state arts consultant for the state of Michigan. So I had sort of switched into adult training mode and really, I like this too. And concurrently, I'm still working in all of these nonprofits. I created a big arts festival for students. I did a lot of stuff. I had an educational broadcast network where we did had the Royal Shakespeare Theater from London come in and do a workshop with some kids that we broadcast. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I retired, you know,
Okay. Okay.
not so much
Look good
by
for you, right?
wanting to. I was, as that art consultant back then, they did budget cuts, and the arts are always the first to go.
Yeah,
So,
unfortunately.
unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
but when, as they say, the old cliche, when one door closes, another one opens up. I
Right.
had been visiting my brother who lived out here in Las Vegas 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
And just so happened that Christmas, I was here for 10 days. And to pass time, instead of going to the casinos, I started
Yeah.
looking at neighborhoods and model homes just to see how they were decorated. Just, oh, there's a flag. Let's go in there.
I love actually, like when my son was young, we lived in the Midwest too, in the Chicago area. And one of the things that we would do on the weekends is go visit model homes and just look at the way that they decorate the homes. It's just like,
Yeah,
it was so fun.
yeah. And so that was my pastime. But while I was here, I sort of ended up putting down a down payment on because I was visiting so often. And I said, this could be my retirement plan 5, 6 years down the road. Get the house built, take my time putting furniture, getting that transition in. And then when it's ready, plus I'll have some place to stay with
Right.
my multiple times I visit. So anyway, put that
And
down.
you get much better weather than Michigan.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So,
Yeah, I remember the day I couldn't open my side door because of the snowdrift. But
yeah.
so anyway, I went back home because that was the Christmas break. Went back home, got back to work, came back out to Vegas in February, signed the final contract and all of that to build the house. That was mid-February. Got back to work mid-March. I was handed a layoff notice. And they said that my last day would be June 30th, that I could either take layoff and go on workman's comp, or because I had so many years, they would bonus me a few more years and give me a huge severance pay to retire.
Okay.
I think I retired. They made it so it wasn't even a difficult decision.
Exactly.
I retired. So my 5-year, I keep saying my 5-year plan went to 5 months.
Okay.
I ended up moving here and was living in Las Vegas July 7th. That's when I got here. From March, when I got the notice, the turnaround.
Somehow, like the universe, like kind of conspired to
everything
make
just
that
sort
happen.
of fell in place. I already had a house being built. I literally found an apartment about 4 blocks from where my brother lived, so I was in familiar neighborhood. I didn't know if I wanted to work, so I just said, "Oh, I'll just submit an application to Clark County School District."
Okay.
I pushed the button, and within 3 hours, they came back and told me I was hired. I was like,
again, destiny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that I wanted to do that, but I said, at least it's a stepping stone. I can get there, get my feet on the ground, learn the lay of the land, and then make a decision. And so literally, July 7th, I was here, started work in August. My house wasn't finished till December, but I, worked and moved to Las Vegas.
Okay.
And here I saw there was a great need for training for nonprofits.
Got it.
Because I was, trying to connect out here. And I just said, just the sophistication of their organization systems and management looked to be about 15 to 20 years behind the Midwest.
Right.
And I'm like, I think I have a lot to offer. So I worked for a few organizations. I was director of outreach for the Nevada Ballet Theater. I was corporate representative for the Springs Preserve here, which is a big museum type attraction here. And I worked for the Nevada Arts Council.
Okay.
But you know what? My mind said, you're retired.
Yes.
And I said, I don't want to work for somebody. I want to do what I want to do. So I started teaching nonprofit management at UNLV, and I taught
Hmm.
management part time as an adjunct instructor for about
Okay.
8 years.
Oh, wow.
But that
Okay.
really got my feet on the ground. I started really learning who was in the community and where the gaps were.
Mm.
And UNLV being a strong, university with systems, I just couldn't throw a course in there that I knew they needed.
Right.
And so I started developing training to fill the gaps that I saw that
Mm.
weren't being provided. And it just sort of snowballed.
Okay.
In those courses, I kept hearing myself say, even though you're in this nonprofit sector, you're really a for purpose business.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you're in the philanthropreneur arena, you need
Mm-hmm.
to think like an entrepreneur.
Right.
And that's how the term philanthropreneur evolved.
I
And
love it.
back in 2011, I launched the Philanthropreneur Show. It was a
Okay.
podcast on Blog
Okay.
Talk Radio. And then I was really just talking about how businesses could leverage some of what they're doing by doing cause marketing. I interviewed, I had about almost 80 podcasts where I'm interviewing business owners
Mm-hmm.
about what they do in the community.
Okay.
Great, had great fun, but then I saw I was still doing a whole lot of training, really doing a whole lot more training for nonprofits. So then was I put out the show, and then I put out the nonprofit journal
Mm-hmm.
that had it was straight for nonprofits, tips, strategies, resources, just articles, and
Mm-hmm.
and that went great too. Then I got a call out of the blue from a marketing guy here in Las Vegas.
Okay.
He saw the term philanthropreneur and he was curious about what it was, and he just picked up the phone, called me, and we ended up talking for about an hour because we had so much in common. But one of the things he said near the end of the conversation was, did you know that there's a German company trying to trademark the term philanthropreneur?
Ah, wow.
And I said, what? Because I had the
Whoa.
domain and I had the
Right.
show and the journal. I was using it, but my company at that time was called the Galaxy Group.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was a different company,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and that sort of panicked me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, literally, hung up from him, searched, found a trademark lawyer. I mean, this all happened like within 2 hours.
Right.
Got a hold of the lawyer, and he said, "Well, I have good news and bad news for you." I was like, "Okay." Now I'm literally sitting in my car in a parking lot
Oh,
talking to.
wow.
Yeah, this is.
Okay.
And he said, "Well, I'll give you the bad news first. Yes, there is a company that has filed for a trademark,
Mm-hmm.
Flanchpreneur." He said, "And it's obvious they were looking at you because they're using the resident agent in Nevada."
Oh, wow.
He said, "So you obviously have caught their attention."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "But the good news is they filed the paperwork wrong, and it's
Oh,
going to be sent back to them for revisions." He said,
okay.
"And we've got about 72 hours to get this in."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay. So, and what he wanted, instead of using the Galaxy Group, he wanted me to officially incorporate the
Mm-hmm.
term the philanthropreneur.
Right.
Hey, I know how to start nonprofits, and I was doing it. So that is when I formed the Philanthropreneur Foundation,
Okay.
and he filed it under that corporate name for the trademark.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 months later, I had the trademark.
Awesome. That's so
So
cool. That's
yeah,
so cool.
so that's how it all evolved. And since then,
I
I
love
have
your
been doing
story.
training. I've written books. All within the nonprofit sector.
All right. So you are a nonprofit expert for sure. So let's like think about listeners out there that are, maybe have thought about starting a nonprofit. Like they're not sure. Should I do a nonprofit? Should I do a regular for-profit business? Like, what would you say is like the advantages or the reasons that a person would start a nonprofit
Okay.
versus a
There's actually
for-profit?
two types of people out there.
Okay.
I call them the founders. Those are the ones that are passion driven,
Mm-hmm.
that they see something that they feel they can fix. And
Mm-hmm.
it's either driven by pain or passion, the homeless, puppies, the warm and
Right.
fuzzies,
Right.
any, whatever their passion is. And they
Mm-hmm.
feel that by forming a nonprofit, they can have an impact in the world.
Okay.
And those are, I call them the founders.
Okay.
And then there's those that see the nonprofit formation as a tool to help their business have more impact.
Okay.
They could call it corporate social responsibility. That's in the big corporate world. It could be social impact. So there's many different ways and reasons to start it. For example, on the business side, the Philanthropy Foundation has what is called our social impact program, because many businesses, in just their marketing efforts, give
Mm-hmm.
away free tools,
Mm-hmm.
free resources,
Right.
checklists,
Right.
directories, how to,
Mm-hmm.
e-guides. All of those are educational resources for the community.
Mm-hmm.
You can leverage that education, those resources,
Mm-hmm.
and put them in an educational hub on a separate website. And now you are an educational resource to the community. And that qualifies that as a nonprofit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you leverage the tools and the
Mm-hmm.
resources you have, and you can become a nonprofit. And the cool thing about that is they then qualify for the Google Ad Grant, which is $10,000 per month in free ads. So it's just, yeah,
What?
yes,
What?
yeah.
Ten
So
thousand
that's
dollars per month in free ads from Google?
yes, on Google, the Google search
Wow.
ads. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a program that has been very popular
Mm-hmm.
because most people, they think of, oh, I'll just go out and be and volunteer. And yeah, I have a whole program on how to leverage cause marketing, how you do that, and the
Right.
advantages. But this is actually taking the resources you have and
Mm-hmm.
positioning them so that they are a true tool for the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Now, no, you're not going to pitch your company on that website.
Okay.
What it is, you set up a system
Mm-hmm.
where it's a landing page, or, where someone who downloads it, you then ask them a series of questions. Was this helpful? Do you have any further questions?
Mm-hmm.
And then they can reply, well, maybe this company can help you with that. So they can get the resources without any ties attached, but the follow up is to ask more questions,
Got it.
And
Okay.
so that's how you leverage that. Now, on the other side, the founders who come with that heart,
Mm-hmm.
I love them because, first of all, they just come with the vision. Most of the time, they have no background in business.
Right.
It's
Right.
it's a lot of seniors start nonprofits because
Hmm.
now they have the time, or
Right.
liquid assets, as I
Yeah.
say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, any founder or a person, individual that comes to me, um, and I hate to say it, I give them a reality check.
Okay.
Because, first of all, I make them do what is called a marketing feasibility. Do we really need another one of these nonprofits, or
Got
in
it.
this,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many animal rescues and things like that. And so my question then is, what makes you different and unique?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
You know,
What's
so
their unique selling proposition?
absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
so that, sometimes, oh, well, it's just something I felt I needed to do. Okay, we'll go volunteer at the other one that's already done. And so I before I let them do any paperwork, I take them through a series of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why are you forming? And if they say, well, I'm creating a job for me, this is not what you need to do then. You know,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
so it's, you want to really be passion driven,
Mm-hmm.
because the measure of your success in a nonprofit is the impact.
Sure. Right.
And so that is everything. And so then I asked them, well, what is your program going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, they have not thought about that. And
Right.
often, many individuals who are thinking about, they go to the community development centers, the small business development centers that are in
Mm-hmm.
almost every city.
Right.
And even though those are great resources, they're built for profit businesses.
Right. Exactly.
Most of the um, counselors or people that are supporting you, the people that work there,
Mm-hmm.
are from the business sector.
Sure.
And so the first thing they tell them, well, go create a business plan. And that is not what nonprofits need to do. They
Okay.
need to create a program plan.
A program plan. Okay.
A
That makes
program plan. And
sense.
that's why
Mm-hmm.
I do a training called the Logic Model Program Plan, which is
Okay.
all about showing the outcomes impact through an evaluation process. So, and I like them to go through, even if they don't flesh it out completely,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can get clarity on what their purpose is. Because in
Right.
order to file any of the paperwork, you have to have a purpose statement.
Okay.
Now, some of my services, I talk to them and just hear what their vision is, and I'll write the purpose statement
For
because
them. Mm-hmm.
I'm skilled. I can do
Right.
that.
Right. Exactly.
But I like them to do that before they even pick a name. Too often I see where I want to call it the XYZ whatever,
Right.
which
Right.
has no meaning in the marketing world. I mean, you have to think about branding. And so I even, before I talk about marketing, branding, the name, being searched on Google, all of
Right.
those
Mm-hmm.
things that are a part of the thought process before launching.
Yes.
Because before you get that EIN, you want to have a good name.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I take them through all of those steps. I call those the before you file.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once we have a outline of the program and we've come up with a good solid name, we check to make sure the domain is available,
Right. Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yep.
and then we start the filing process, which is creating the state corporation. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever state you're in, you have to file for articles of incorporation. Now, each state is different. They might call them articles of organization. They might call them forming a entity. They call them all different things, but basically, it's you are now an official corporation.
So that's interesting. So even though you're a nonprofit, you're still considered a corporation?
You're a nonprofit corporation.
Corporation. Got it.
Yeah,
Got
you
it.
file
Okay.
nonprofit articles of incorporation,
Got
and you
it.
get an
Okay.
actual certificate from the state.
Right. Okay.
Because you can't even file to the IRS to get that 501c3 tax code designation without having your corporate paperwork,
Got it. Okay.
because it's a two-part step, two
Process.
phases that you have to do.
Okay.
So first you file the state paperwork,
Mm-hmm.
and then once you have that charter, I call it a charter because I'm in Nevada, they call it a charter,
Okay.
and then you can go ahead and start thinking about the IRS, because you have to be approved by them, tax code 501c3.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the term nonprofit is not used by IRS. That's just some arbitrary term that came about because you're a for purpose business
Mm-hmm.
with tax code 501c3.
Got it. Okay.
Now, you have to have your bylaws because the IRS in the application process asks for certain clauses. I write bylaws. Basically, I do all of the paperwork
Mm,
necessary
that's
for
nice.
state and IRS filing. But what I say, because they'll go to CPAs or lawyers. Most CPAs and or lawyers are not nonprofit specialists.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And so they can't give all of that pre-guidance, the marketing ideas, the branding, and all of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Right.
And they're just filling out forms. And there's different ways. I mean, even with your purpose statements, you don't want to lock yourself in. So it's so narrow that
Mm-hmm.
as you grow, you can't add more programs. You want to have it generic enough so
Got
that
it.
it states more of the vision, the big picture,
Mm-hmm.
versus tiny little things that you're going to do.
I see. Okay.
So yeah, so all of those are what I call specific skills
Mm-hmm.
that
Oh
I
yeah, for sure.
add to the picture.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
Definitely.
while you're waiting on IRS, because you never can predict when they're going to approve things. Sometimes they come back fast. Sometimes
They don't.
they don't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the during,
Mm-hmm.
while you're waiting on that, all of that, that's when you start putting together and gathering your people, your team.
Okay.
Because now you have a program statement that gives the overall view that you can clearly articulate. So
Mm-hmm.
you can now go out and start building the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, initially you need, technically you only need one person to incorporate and form it.
Right.
I always try to encourage them to have at least three people: president, secretary, treasurer.
Okay.
I,
Okay.
I it's not required, but I encourage that.
Okay.
It looks better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
But then you still want to build your board with people that will bring assets to the organization.
Mm-hmm.
In order to even attract them, you need to have, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
That comes from that program plan. And so while you're waiting on all of this paperwork to happen, you start building. That's when you build out your website,
Right. Okay.
talking about what you do and how you're going to do it. Have a big launch and do all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So you're putting now together your systems while
Right.
you're waiting for
Mm-hmm.
paperwork. Then once the paperwork comes back, then you're able to actually activate all of the different processes and do what you.
What happens if it comes back rejected?
I have 100% approval rate.
Okay. All right.
Yes. I can brag on
Well,
that.
well,
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Because I know how to write purpose statements. I
Mm-hmm.
know how to file the applications. Even if there's two applications. There's what is called a short form and the long form.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't anticipate raising more than $50,000 per year for the first 3 years, you can do the short form. You still need
Okay.
your bylaws. You still need certain uh, things identified in that application. If you are one of those fortunate nonprofits or founders that already has some people behind you, or backers and funding, exactly where funding, and you anticipate it will be over, then you
Mm-hmm.
have to do the long form.
Got
That's
it.
29 pages.
Oh
Yes,
my gosh.
yes, I do the
Wow.
long form too, but there's narrative you have to add, and it has to have certain content. It has to be said in a certain, because there's certain flags that IRS looks for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you start putting those language or terms in there, they'll flag you and send letters with, we need more information
Right.
about
Right.
the,
Yeah.
you know
Slows your process.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So both of them, because I've been doing these applications for probably now almost 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, IRS changes the rules midway,
Right.
so
Yeah.
they have a way of notifying, finding out all the new additions or changes, or, things like that. I know where to look at, all of that up,
Right.
so I have some certain IRS agents on speed dial, hey, what's happening with so and so,
Mm-hmm.
so just because I have the expertise and the experience of doing it so often,
Right.
it's easy for me to do, but that's because I have the expertise experience.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know,
And I can see like how your services could be so helpful for someone, because me just thinking about like trying to, like, I know I have to file like this new thing for LLCs called BOI, something like that, BOI. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm just, let me put this off. Let me put this off.
yeah,
Like just the thought of going through some type of IRS document and navigating myself through. And it's probably not even as like complex as, like
yeah,
you said, the
yeah.
501c.
The application can be confusing,
Mm-hmm.
because just like with any internal revenue service form,
Right.
they don't make the questions like straightforward.
Right.
You have to sit there and go, so are they asking this or that?
Right.
And
Right.
so
And then you're clicking on the little question mark to see, well, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, and that doesn't really explain it either. So it's
Right, yeah.
because because like I said, I've done these applications so many times, I know exactly what they're looking for. And
Right,
so
right.
I know how to position it. And that's why with many of the individuals that come to me, I tell them, I will write your purpose statements. Because generally they'll say, oh, I've done all of that. And I have to change them
Right.
because they're not compliant to what IRS wants. Also, many states, to get a corporate articles of incorporation, their requirements don't align with IRS, which
Okay.
is sort
Right.
of crazy. But you can become a corporation in a state with just a few little clicks and criteria, basically have an address there.
Right.
Whereas the purpose statement, how it is listed and things like that, might not be compliant, or the bylaws might not be compliant with IRS, whereas the state will approve them. IRS bylaws have certain clauses that must be included.
Right.
So
let's say now we've got our 501c like filed, everything is ready. We've got the website in place, and we're ready to just go out there and promote and create the impact that we started the nonprofit for. What are you seeing like in this industry today that are like the biggest challenges that these nonprofit founders are facing?
most nonprofits think their biggest challenge is fundraising.
Okay, they think that.
They think their biggest challenge is marketing.
Okay.
Because you can't fundraise without marketing. If nobody knows about you, they won't give to you.
Right.
If nobody is aware of your programs, they won't come for your services. So I've been on my soapbox, saying, yes, you need fundraising. I understand how that is critical. But in order to boost your fundraising, let's look at marketing first.
Sure.
And the first step, I look at their website. Because that is the hub that the phrase I use, all roads lead to your website.
Right.
If someone is...
Yay. I'm so glad to hear you say that. We build websites in our branding and marketing agency. And sometimes like I have people coming to me and saying, well, I don't know if I need a full website. I've been doing business just fine without a website. And I'm like, how? Like how?
I've had people say, oh, well, we have a Facebook page. And
exactly. Like, no.
What is that? I said, oh, and we have 900 followers. I said, do you have any of those emails?
Exactly. Yes.
Yes. I said, if Facebook closed you down today, you have lost all of those friends and followers. Right. And they go, oh. I said, you don't own anything on social media.
Exactly.
It's borrowed time, basically. It's for exposure. I said, everything on your website, you own.
Right. And
you can manage. Right. And so some of the criteria, even for their website, I said, you have to have some type of CRM, customer relationship management tool, where they can enter an email and a name, either to sign up for the newsletter, to donate, or to get resources.
Exactly. Like some type of, like we talked about before, a checklist or guides or this or whatever, right?
Yes. And nonprofit need those too. In fact, one of my clients I'm working with right now, when she first came to me, she was talking about, well, I was getting someone to rebuild my whole website. I said, well, let me look at what you have now. I said, you don't really need to rebuild. You need to upgrade and revise the language, the content, the placement of it, and the opportunities for people to engage with you.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. Do you have a resource guide or like I said, a checklist, where they can enter their email so that you can build communications?
Exactly.
Because the only way you're going to get donors or supporters or sponsors is to start building that communication. And you're probably familiar with the old funnel. you know?
Yes, of course. Yeah, we
Yeah,
build funnels too.
yeah. And that's the same process is with donors. There's
Yes.
people out there that have no idea who you are.
Hmm.
And so that's where marketing, you have to build your awareness
Yes.
with things that attract them. How do you attract them? You have to know what they're looking for. So you use keyword planners and research and, ask the public, all of these
Right.
different tools to find out what are people looking for.
Hmm.
You start using those keywords and
Right.
SEO optimization type thingies
Yes.
to get them or your site or your organization to pop up in searches.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then they'll come and check out your website.
Now, do you find that a lot of nonprofits are like, I feel like, one of the greatest things that nonprofit founders can do is have like, in terms of their content, is become thought leaders in their space, and to have content out there that really connects people to their vision and their mission. Like, is that something that nonprofits are doing on a regular basis,
No,
or no?
no. Leaders are in overwhelm.
Yes. Okay.
Nonprofit leaders are in overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, just the nature of what they do. They're generally understaffed,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're wearing many hats,
Right.
and they really don't have time to think about content. They're so busy running programs.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
So, person like me who writes content, that's
Mm-hmm.
why I I help with website development, the content part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I will look at a website and say, you don't have any place for them to opt in.
Right.
Now in their newsletters, I give them a whole, I call it a communication thread.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, stop asking for money. Because every time they were, you need to do, we need your money. No, you need to show them the impact that you're having. You need to have
Right.
testimonials, and you need to have, we're so excited about this new staff member.
Right.
Come
Yes.
see some of our, invite them, engage them, and
Mm-hmm.
communicate with them
Mm-hmm.
so
Yes.
that they start having an emotional reaction to what
Yes.
you're doing. And that emotional reaction will eventually lead to them supporting you.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. I 100% on board with that. Like, it
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of some of the for-profit businesses that are just, yes, they are getting opt-ins, right? They're getting people to opt in, but all they're doing is just sell, sell,
Yeah.
sell, sell. Like, buy my offer, buy this, buy this, buy this.
You
It's
have to
like
give them value
value.
driven content
Yes.
that relates to and is relevant to their problem.
Yes.
So that is a lot of what I do. I
Mm-hmm.
help them look at what is the value of your organization, what is
Mm-hmm.
the impact that you
Mm-hmm.
have, and how can you communicate that. In fact, you were talking about using some of the strategies from the business world. One of the programs, which I call Super Donor
Mm-hmm.
Challenge or Super Donor Training, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
about this, getting them in, attracting them, and retaining through a communication
Mm-hmm.
system and plan, is
Mm-hmm.
from Pat Flynn's Superfan.
Oh, okay. Okay. Uh-huh.
For
Yeah.
those of you who don't know who Pat Flynn, he's a big marketer out there in the
Yes,
marketing
he
world. And
is.
he wrote a book called
Definitely.
Superfan. And
Yes,
so
definitely.
I'm a big, huge fan of Pat Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I read his book, I said, these are principles that can be applied to the donor retention and attraction process
Right.
and create that super donor.
Mm-hmm. Super
And
donor. I love it. I love it.
yeah, so I have that program too.
Okay. You have a lot of resources. That's awesome.
Well, training, that's what I do.
Right. Right. So tell me, I think what I'd like to hear is, just because I like positive things, like, what's like one of the greatest like nonprofit success stories that you could share with us?
I think all of mine are success stories because
Okay.
it doesn't have to be this huge, big organization.
Mm-hmm.
Some nonprofits are formed to stay small,
Mm-hmm. That's true.
and they only want to serve 10 to 12 people. because one is helping. Well, I have several. Okay, one is helping uh, moms get education to help their children thrive
Mm-hmm.
because they're single moms, and
Mm-hmm.
struggling. To me, that's a success story.
Absolutely.
But they only serve a small group.
Mm-hmm.
Any organization that serves children and education, I
Right.
love it.
Any organization, nonprofit, for profit, whatever, that's creating positive change in this world is successful.
Yeah, and of course, we all have our own personal passions. My background is the arts, and I
Mm-hmm.
taught, in public education, and so children learning or just reaching their full potential.
Mm-hmm.
That
You
that's
have a
a
heart for
that's an
that.
moment for
Yes,
me.
right. Uh-huh. Yeah, I hear you.
So uh, I can't say that one. Each has their own unique thing that makes me feel like, we did good.
Right. Yeah. It
So
feels good to help someone that's doing good in the world.
absolutely, and I guess I'm getting a double whammy because I'm training nonprofits who
Mm-hmm.
are having an impact in the world be more effective.
Right.
So
So you're helping them be more impactful in the world.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I love it. So my favorite question to end with is about your mojo, which is your secret superpower in this world. What would you say is your mojo? And how do you protect that mojo so that you can continue to go out and serve others?
I tend to give too much,
Okay.
but in the nonprofit sector, even as a teacher,
Hmm.
we didn't go into it for the money.
Right.
You know, that was not the driving force.
Sure.
But what really keeps me going is because I love to create training
Hmm.
and I have the ability to really see the bigger picture.
Hmm.
And for example, many nonprofit leaders are so overwhelmed, and the statement I hear over and over again, I don't even know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I have the ability to sit because I'm on the outside
Sure. Hmm.
and do an organizational assessment
Hmm.
where, well, I think you need to work on this, this, and this initially, and only
Hmm.
give them three things that they need to even think about.
Right.
So I
Right.
help them prioritize based on the need of the organization, and that makes me feel good because I'm using a bunch of my skill sets
Hmm. Hmm.
and really empowering them to get overwhelmed
Hmm. Get
and
out of the
start.
weeds.
Yeah, you can't
Yes.
see the forest for the trees, but
Hmm.
all of
Yeah.
those sayings, but
Hmm.
and help them really see that, okay, by creating this, I call it an action plan of
Hmm.
only three things
Hmm.
that they can make progress and they can feel it almost immediately.
Yes.
So that always makes me feel good where I see them physically go,
Hmm. There's a
you know,
lot of power in threes.
yeah, yes, it is.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's actually my power number in my numerology and my birth date and
Oh,
all.
that's cool. That's cool.
So, but that one thing is my ability to just say, I can step back and say,
Hmm.
here's where your gaps are. So
Hmm.
let's look at those things first.
Okay.
Has always driven me.
Hmm.
And like I said at the very beginning of our interview, I like to see people or organizations reach their full potential.
Potential. So you're a cheerleader to get them out there, and yeah, I love it. And
Yeah.
empowerment.
Sometimes I call myself an accountability partner.
Hmm. Yeah.
Not coach, but partner. So
Partner. Yes. Yes. Awesome. So any final words? words of encouragement, anything that you want to say to all of these nonprofit leaders out in the world doing good?
First of all, I honor and applaud you for going into the nonprofit sector. It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart, as they say. So I applaud at any time any individual even comes and say they're thinking about it. I tell them I honor your passion. But just understand that it is a business that needs initial investment. And whether you are the investor in those or you know how to find it, that's a part of the process.
Right.
And to keep your vision alive, just do what you need to do because it can happen. You just need to find the right resources.
I love it. I love it. So thank you again, Victoria, for being here. I will be providing all of your links and resources in the show notes for any nonprofit leader. I think you would be blessed to work with you. I think it's obvious that you have so much value to offer. And I hope a lot of nonprofits get to connect with you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love talking about what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love giving the space for people to talk about what they do.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the On a Mission Mojo podcast. Ready to dive into more incredible stories of people on a mission? Next week, I'll return with a fresh episode to ignite your passion for creating a better world. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a glowing review, and spread the word to all your friends. Head over to onamissionbrands.com for more great episodes. Remember, the world needs your mojo, so go out there and let your brilliance shine.